Hello.
Hello.
Sundar, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm here. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Hello, Sundar.
Yeah, I'm there.
Hello.
I'm in. Srini, I'm in. I'm in.
Hello, Sundar, are you there?
I'm there. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Okay. We have these 5 minutes since we worked out this technical problem. We wait for some time for some of our friends to join.
But can you hear me? Can you hear me, Srinivas? Hello. Hello.
இல்லையே ஆமா அவர் கேட்டிருக்காரு ஆனா எனக்கு கேட்கலையே என்ன எங்க பிரச்சனையா இதுலயே ஹலோ
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
போயிடலாமா
Srinivas, I can hear you very well. Can you see me?
Turned out to be very bad.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello.
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 Hello. I'm there. Can you hear me?
I'm sorry. Yeah. Now I can.
Can you see me?
Of course, I can see you.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Fine.
Yeah.
Then it makes sense for me to say something.
Yeah, so I got in through another device, and so
Okay.
I could not hear you and see you also.
And tell me, should I go in English or in bilingual or Tamil?
I don't know if you have the pan-Indian sort of thing.
Okay.
So
So I will go
probably
in.
simple language. Yeah,
Yeah.
simple English is better, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah. All right. I'll stick to English.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I'll speak something about you, and okay. Yeah.
Fine.
Okay. I welcome all of you, whoever is joined with us. So there is some technical problem. I'm very sorry about it. We could have a lot of people joining us today, but at the end of the, just starting of the talk, we have to change the code. So therefore, unfortunately, we'll be missing a lot of people. But okay, I think some of us join with us. Sundar is my one of the close friends. He is helping me a lot from my PhD days. RMRL is the biggest, one of the important, foundations or important institution for the history of Tamil Nadu as well as the South India also. Sundar is a trained activist. He has been working with the Roja Muthiah Library since its inception, 1994. A number of preservation projects have been handled by him, such as National Endowment for Humanities, Wellcome Institute for the History of Understanding Medicine, Mellon Foundation, Ford Foundation, and Endangered Archives Program. He trained several archivists for all over India. He has been a consultant to UNESCO, Center for Studies in Social Sciences, Calcutta Madan Puraskar Pustakalaya, Nepal, Satyajit Ray Foundation, Kolkata, and Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore. He authored some of the books, book like The Tall Man, Biji Patnaik. He has also written several articles. He is currently has been director of the Roja Muthiah Library, Research Library for a long, long time. So I must say that this is one of the biggest institutions. I mean, biggest in a sense that it's not in size, but the way it contributes to the history of South India in many ways. So with this, I welcome Sundar to speak about.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Srini.
Yeah.
So happy to be part of this. And I remember sometime back we organized and I couldn't join. I'm sorry about that, but I'm happy talking now about this. So I'm going to, I have a presentation. I hope I
Mm.
can show that, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Let me, tell me if you're all
Yeah.
able to see it.
Yeah. This was it.
Yeah? All
Yeah.
right. So I had this title called as More Than Being a Library. You know,
Yeah.
it's the idea of calling more than being a library is what I'm going to talk about, and you will get to know why I say it is being more than a library. To begin with, what do we do at the Rojamatha Library? And how do people perceive? And how do we perceive ourselves? I think we are more accessible and we preserve better. And that is the kind of reputation that we have developed the last 26 years. And I also wanted to show you some of the objectives of RMRL, or the most important objectives of our RMRL, which is number one, to undertake and enable development of research libraries and archives. And our scope is only related to South Indian studies, in order to serve the needs of scholars. Here, when I say South Indian studies, there may be some kind of overlapping, there are some boundary areas. I will be crossing the boundaries in some places. I'll tell you where we do that. And the second objective is, of course, to preserve and conserve all documents that is value for research. We do not leave out any documents. For instance, people would say, why do you collect this book, that book? This is a junk and, this author is not good. We don't care about that. What we care is if our society has produced something, our job as archivists should be to preserve and conserve that document for future. It is for the society to decide what is good and what they want. So we do not get into the value judgment part of it. And then we also collect this knowledge about other libraries and archives, not only our library, and it's also about other libraries and archives. And we disseminate all that information that we have collected. And I'm going to tell you what it means in a short while. So we don't stop with that. We also train librarians and archives. So there is a very important and major role for RMRL, or at least in the last 25 years, we have already done that. Or we have been a pioneering institute in the area of training, especially librarians, in the area of cataloging and preservation. And then, of course, conservation of material. Then we also collaborate with other institutions, not just libraries, but also other institutions for the betterment of services, which will enhance our so-called reference services, and also to engage in research in the areas of humanities and social sciences. So when I say I've marked in red libraries and archives to South Indian studies, needs of scholars. So I'm going to explain a bit about that. First of all, there is a difference between library and archive. At least that is how it is perceived. In our case, it is not just a library. It is also an archive. The reason we call it an archive, even though the name of the institution is Roja Muthiah Research Library, we call it library. That is how it started. But then now it's also an archive, because what happens in the library? In a traditional library, people would collect, catalog, and provide reader service. Then in a few years, there is another edition of a book. So they discard the old book, old edition. And this weeding process continues, it goes on every year. There are also certain percentages that are, that people say that you can weed out. It's a allowable limit. Whereas in the Rojamatha library, we do not weed out anything. Then, in addition to not weeding out, what does traditionally library contain? They usually have books and periodicals. In an archive, you will have books, periodicals of all the periods, all editions. And in addition to that, you will also have manuscripts, handwritten manuscripts, palm leaf manuscripts, paper manuscripts, audio tapes, audio records, other forms of audio records, video. And so the scope goes on and on. In whatever medium information is available, all the mediums are being preserved in an archive. So that is why, I call it is more than a library. It is not just a library. Then, of course, it's also related to South Indian studies. Even though it is South Indian studies, one may question, we also work on subjects related to Indus civilization, which I'm going to talk about a little later. So let me go through some of these objectives in detail. How do we preserve and conserve and the items that are value for research? How did it all begin? What is the role of Roja Muthiah Library? The Roja Muthiah Research Library was established in the year 1994. Earlier, it was a single man's effort called Roja Muthiah, who was a signboard artist from a place called Kottayur, which is down south of Tamil Nadu, maybe a couple of hours from Trichy. And Roja Muthiah lived there till 1992. And in his lifetime, he had collected about 100,000 items comprising of books, and non-book material. When I say non-book, they are basically periodicals, posters, ephemera, like songbooks, cinema notices, and theater pamphlets. And this 1 lakh items, about 50,000 books were there. And if you take the subjects were ancient literature, which is material related to Sangam period. Then you have material on medieval literature, which includes folk literature. And the third subject is indigenous medicine, like Siddha and Ayurveda. So we have one of the biggest collections of Siddha material in the library. And the fourth, and a very expansive voluminous material is related to popular culture. So there are many subjects that are included in popular culture. To name a couple of things, one is theater and the other one is cinema. So you will find that this is one of the biggest the resources for Tamil film studies or theater studies. So now in 1994, it was established through the University of Chicago. University of Chicago, when they how did they get into? Am I audible?
Yes. Very good.
Oh, see the presentation.
Presentation is gone now.
Okay, I'll come back to that. Just wanted to check. Now?
Yeah, presentation is not visible.
Okay, not yet. How about now?
No.
What happened? How about now?
Yeah,
it's coming
now,
up.
Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see it now? Yeah.
Yeah.
So in 1995, when I told you that Roja Muthiah died in 1992. After he died, the family sold the collection, and this advertisement was on. And one of the important feminist authors called C.S. Lakshmi, she was a visiting scholar at the University of Chicago. And she informed the people, her colleagues at that time in Chicago, and there was a team which was formed to identify, to evaluate this collection, and it was finally decided that it's a very important collection, that we have to save this collection. So University of Chicago came forward to buy, and they moved the entire collection to Chennai. So they first decided that it should be placed in Chennai for preservation. So the entire collection was moved to Chennai in '94 April, and since then we started looking at the collection closely. When we were able to lay our hands on each of the books and start cataloging them. So we got to identify the major subjects in the area which I mentioned earlier. So then slowly we started expanding the collection. And now we have about 400,000 items in the collection. So 1 lakh to 4 lakh items in the same subjects that Roja Muthiah had collected. And in a very short span of time, this was done. Well, the role of University of Chicago was very important in the beginning. So we started to preserve and conserve all these documents. How did we preserve? We preserved initially through microfilming, and then with the change in technology, we started digitizing. How did we collect the 4 lakh items? By going to different locations, identifying individual scholars, institutions, people who do not want to keep the material, or people who are not able to keep the material, do not know the know-how of preservation, and people who are willing to donate. So we went to all these people in almost all the districts in Tamil Nadu, and then we started talking to people. Slowly, people realized that it is important to donate to the library, and all the material came to the library. So this has become an archive now. So in this slide, you see the different aspects of facets of the Roja Muthiah Library. To begin with, as I said, what does a library mean? Library usually has a catalog, or it has a good reference service. Number one, this is essentially a reference library. It is not a lending library. So people can come, sit on the catalog, access the catalog, and get the material. Out of the shelves. There are people who do that for a scholar, for a visiting scholar. And this is a closed access system, meaning people cannot enter the stacks. So I'm emphasizing the fact that people are not allowed to enter the stacks, because in several cases, several libraries, we have seen people who have entered stacks, and owing to the nature of the material, as they do not know how to handle this material, it becomes extremely difficult for us to monitor who is going into the stack. Therefore, in order to preserve the material, we decided that it has to be a closed access system. So they can sit at the reference desk, call for a particular item, and the item will be on the table within 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm sure people who have visited the library will talk about that. All right. Now, I already mentioned that we have 4 lakh items, and from the period 1797. That is precisely the first book that was printed in Tamil Nadu. We all know that books in South Asia, printing in South Asia goes back to 1567, but that was in Goa and then sometime in Malabar. There were a couple of hundred books that were printed before 1797. Then in 1797, it all started with the Ziegenbalg in Tranquebar. It's called the Tranquebar mission, or the Danish-German mission, where they set up a press. They also set up a foundry, and then they started printing material from there. They not only printed missionary-related material, they also printed some of the palm leaves that were copied, books that were printed from palm leaves. So this was going on for a long time, and then there was a boom in the 19th century, and then further boom in the 20th and the 20th century. So we all know how many books are being printed every year in a particular language right now. But if you take stock of all the items so far, one will not be able to still assert the number of items published in a particular language. So we still have this problem in India. However, I can surely, for sure, say that we have the biggest database for Tamil material. So one can get an idea the whole entire period how many books were published, and most probably, I can also say with a reasonable assumption that we probably do not have 20% of what was not published. So that is the situation or status of preservation in Tamil Nadu. At least we have better statistics when compared to other language material. All right. So I said this is not just a library, it's more than a library. So it's an archive. Then what do? I said we preserve. How do we preserve? I said earlier, we were microfilming material. So even today, microfilming is considered to be the best way to preserve material, analog form of material, because you can see the material. In digitization, you do not know what is happening to the data sitting in the cloud or computer. So I know people who are into this area will be having nightmares. Whereas with microfilm, as long as you're preserving, you're maintaining the temperature and humidity well, you have a proper storage room, it is possible to preserve these documents. At any rate, we started microfilming, then we started digitization, and we also started digitizing the microfilms that were made in the library. And there's also technology where you can take the digital copy and feed it through a machine which will convert it into microfilm. However, we don't have that machine here with us, but otherwise we have all the other equipment in terms of microfilming and digitization. Then another major area is conservation. And what are the items that we deal with? We deal with paper and palm leaves. So we have mostly paper-based material and about 1,500 palm leaves in the library. So when I say paper-based material, books and periodicals. When it is paper, every item that is on this earth has a lifetime. So paper has a lifetime. And paper, when it is not properly made, then the age of paper or the aging of paper is very quick. When I say aging, what happens is it deteriorates very quickly. So what is the paper which does not deteriorate so easily? We all know about handmade paper. Handmade paper, which is made out of rich fiber and acid-free material, stay for a very, very long time. Whereas paper that does not follow that convention and follows what is called as a mass production of material, that paper is not so sturdy. So we see yellowing of paper very soon. Maybe in 20 years it yellows, in 50 years it slowly gets brittle, and in 100 years the paper breaks away, becomes brittle and breaks away. However, the old material which was made out of handmade paper, they are still intact. For more than 300 years they are intact, which is a good thing for us to know. So we also then, what we do, we have archive, library, preservation, and conservation. And we also train people in all these areas. We train in cataloging. When I say catalog, what we do is called as a marked cataloging, Mark 21, which is a mission-readable 21st century catalog, which is agreed upon through library conventions throughout the world. So the Library of Congress in Washington, the British Library in UK, or the National Library in Paris, or in Japan, or in China, and India, they follow this kind of convention. However, there are still some libraries in India which do not follow these conventions. What we do is we not only follow the convention, but also we train people in this convention. So that is about catalog. Then on preservation, we used to train people in microfilming. Then we do a lot of digital training programs for people who want to learn that. And then metadata creation, then conservation, paper conservation. You have how do you preserve them? How do you preserve them? Or how do you what kind of techniques you do to change the composition of paper or preserve the composition of paper? So we train, we provide all this background and also some services. If someone who has some material they want to repair, we can do that kind of work. Then digital restoration. We have restored two important books digitally. One is Notebooks of Srinivasa Ramanujan, the mathematician Srinivasa for his centenary celebrations. So we used a very unique methodology, which has been documented in that book. If you search for it, it is available. And then we use the same technique to also restore the first ever printed classical Tamil text, uh, which is 1812 edition. In Tamil, there are pullis and dots. People who know Tamil may know this. For consonants, we have dots. And this book is without those dots, but still it's readable. So it was copied as it is from the palm leaf manuscript in 1812. After nearly 200 years, we have restored this, and there are only 5 copies of this Tirukural in the entire world, and we have 1 copy. So we reprinted, and we thought as a treasure for every Tamil, people might want to have this book in their shelves. So this is basically bought for gifting people. So this is one of the most important things that we have done. Then, other than Tirukural publication, we have also published another book, very important book, Chennai of Civilization, which I'll talk about it later. And we also have this bulletin called the Bulletin of the Indus Research Center. And for research, I earlier mentioned that we have humanities, social sciences. We have plans for having a chair in that area, but what we did in 2012, with the advice of the late Indus scholar Airavata Mahadevan, we started the Indus Research Center, and we started looking at both the civilization and the script. So the bulletin helps us to propagate that message, that what we the findings, or not just the findings in the research center here, but also people who are working in this area in other places. And it's a peer-reviewed journal, so that is one of the most important areas that we are working. Then comes another area called the extension activities. People who are in library science may understand the term extension activities when they studied library science. Basically, there are activities which are not directly for the library, or like cataloging or preservation, but this is an extension of a library activity. So what we do is we have monthly lecture series going on, every month 1 lecture. We have nearly 6-7 endowments under which this monthly lecture series goes on. So a scholar in a particular area is invited to give lectures, and these lectures are available on our YouTube channel called the RMRL Chennai YouTube channel. And right now, there is a series going on which is called the Sangat Churangam, which is every Saturday, 6:30 p.m. To 9 p.m. We have Mr. R. Balakrishnan talking about concepts from Sangam literature, and he presents in a very beautiful manner. So, historians have not looked at Sangam literature as a historical document, but now he's showing important information as to how historically important this text would be, and how a different methodology can be used to extract historical information from Sangam literature. So that is going to go on. We are planning for 100 lecture series. So this week it's going to be the 29th lecture. And we also have exhibitions on various topics that is in the collection. I said that we have 400,000 items in the collection, but of the 400,000 items, if you take statistics, only 4% of the entire collection has been put to use. So the remaining people have not seen, they have not laid their hands on it. So what we do, people, when they don't look at a particular area, we curate an exhibition in that area and showcase it for people to come and look at the exhibition. And then there's more footfall after that. That is the idea. So now you know that it is not just a library, it is more than a library. So it has become a cultural hotspot. Not only librarians come, people, experts in preservation come, conservation come, people who want to learn in all these areas, they come. People, scholars come, apart from the reference services, they come for consultations. We meet and talk, deliberate on various topics. People who want to know, learn about digital restoration, they come here. And through the extension activities, we have, both public, both the general public and also scholars. There's a chance for these people to meet here, and RML provides that kind of a platform. And another objective is catalog. The catalog is available on how do we disseminate information? It is through our online catalog. And it is a sort of historical bibliography, I must say. So if you look at the bibliography, not only, if one wants to look at the entire data behind a book, it is possible to extract that. But usually what is seen in the front end is only a short title catalog. But the entire historical bibliography is available on request. We also collaborate with other institutions for the betterment of services. So who are the institutions that we have collaborated with? Number one, to begin with, Microfilming of Indian Publications Project, which was a joint project of Government of India and US government, or the US Library of Congress. So when RMR was set up in 1994, a lot of knowledge was drawn from this project. Through this project, we also equipped ourselves in the area of microfilming preservation. And we also lent our material for microfilming under this project. And the South Asia Union Catalog, where a number of universities in the US, UK, and in India, of course not universities in India, some institutions in India, got together with this brilliant idea of collating all language material in South Asia and to be brought under one platform called the South Asia Union Catalog Platform. And then South Asia Microfilm Project, which is a project of Center for Research Libraries in the US, Endangered Archives Program of the British Library, the Center for Research Libraries in Chicago, and the newly founded South Asia Open Archives Initiative in the US again. Number of universities in the US and institutions in India have got together to do this. So RMR has been continuously working with these establishments, not only to convert material for preservation and to disseminate, but also to continuously learn from colleagues who are working in this field. So earlier, collections were physically taken out of India. With the establishment of RMR, that has stopped. What we do is we do not send material. There's no more, and the interest for buying material from India has come down. So it is only the digital copies that people are interested. As long as there is funding, we can take this material, convert it to a digital document, and disseminate through open platforms so that it is useful to everyone. Then comes Indus Research Center. I mentioned earlier that with the advice of Roja Muthiah, we set up this. Now, and Roja Muthiah was the first honorary consultant. Now it is Mr. R. Balakrishnan. He retired as the Additional Chief Secretary of Orissa government. And for 30 years, he has been working in the area of onomastics, place name studies, and connecting that with the Indus civilization and the Tamil geography here. His Journey of Civilization was recently published in December 2019, and it is making big rounds. And you can see, and the latest Frontline issue also has a review of that book by Mr. Udaychandran. So we are continuing to do research in this area, and I mentioned earlier that about the bulletin that we run, and people come to us for publishing their articles in the area of Indus research. So there is also a need for a research center focusing on language, literature, culture, and historical studies. So we are planning to set up Center for Humanities and Social Sciences, uh, which will be done soon. I hope so. And one more area where we collaborate, which I forgot to mention, is the recent collaboration, which I'll talk about in a while. So you see the training activities in the library, outside the library. We have gone as far as Sikkim. Our experts have gone to all parts of India, barring some of the states. We've also gone to Bangladesh, we've gone to Sri Lanka, gone to Nepal to train people, not only librarians, but also archivists. And people come to the library as it is considered to be a center for excellence in the area of cataloging and preservation. I'll run through some of these things. We have this kind of state-of-art scanners, digital scanners. This is a microfilm camera, and this is a microfilm scan station. It scans the microfilms and converts analog to digital information. This machine is called Irene, which converts gramophone records to digital form. Basically, we have seen gramophone records which scratch the surface of the gramophone record. In this case, there is no contact, so it does not scratch the surface. Simply, there's a high-end camera which captures the images on the grooves like this, and then this is processed, and you get to. I'm not sure if you're able to listen. I'm not able to play here a song. Anyway, so you get an audio output, a digital output, which is stored for posterity. It's a very simple technology, but it appears very sophisticated. Then palm leaf conservation is one of the areas. Paper conservation. This is while repairing deacidification, repairing pages, and also providing strength to paper. This is digital restored notebooks of Srinivasa Ramanujan. What you see on the left is the original notebook. Then you see a print edition which came in 1957, with whatever technology was available. And on the extreme right, you see the latest digitally restored page where in the color, exact colors that Ramanujan had written. This is a restored book of Tirukural. You have Mr. Roja Muthiah and Balakrishnan here, the heads of Indus Research Center, which is part of the Roja Muthiah Library. And this is the publication, Journey of Civilization, which is a very attractive book and one of the best products of RMR, I should say, and also well-researched book by Mr. R. Balakrishnan. All his 30 years of hard work has gone into this, and in 17 chapters, you have this wonderfully produced book, which makes the links between Sangam literature, Indus geography, and the Tamil geography. These are some of the images of the lectures, exhibitions that you see here. And for collaborations, this is a recent collaborative effort that we signed an MOU with the Department of Archaeology, State Archaeology, and we already have an agreement with the Internet Archive. Whatever we have scanned so far is slowly going to be available online through the Internet Archive platform. We started the process. I think already some 600 books are available now. They are slowly ingesting material one after another. Then with respect to the archaeology department, the idea is to run workshops, seminars, conduct seminars, publish books, and get involved in other archaeological activities which is important for awareness and also for scholarship. These are some of the books from the classical period. And you have periodicals, the earliest periodicals, like the Desamitran, the Hindu, Zanana. The little magazine movement started with journals like Jaluthu and wedding invitation, periodicals, missionary periodicals, Islamic periodicals, audiolithographs, song books, all that you can find here. This is a material for cinema, Grantha and Persian, Malayalam, a few Malayalam. So you can see all this material in the library. But 90% of it is, 80% of the collection is in Tamil. The 20% will be in English. Very, very few items are in other languages. So finally, I will come to show you an image of Roja Muthiah and this important quote. It says, "A book loss is a loss to the nation." So with this, I will stop my presentation and allow you to ask questions if you have.
Yes. Unfortunately, I think we should have had a lot gathering, but online gathering.
That's okay.
But since the nick of the moment, I think we had a problem.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. Anyway, the reason I have requested Sundar to speak to help us understand what the RMRL is all about. We certainly had a greater understanding now. Especially the students of history, research scholars in history certainly would have to benefit a lot from the library since they're nearby. For the students or research scholars from the Tamil Nadu is actually a very excellent center for historical resources. As he also 80% of resources, of course, Tamil, but he said also he's been giving importance to the rest of the languages also. So that's that. So anyway, before I ask some questions, I request those our students and research scholars and others join and listen to the talk and ask some questions. You can speak or you can type.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. Sir, I don't have any particular questions on related to documents because you well explained the complete details of the documents in the Roja Muthiah Library. But I have a genuine question I have a genuine question with you, sir. That is, we have a wonderful knowledge system in India. In the form of libraries and archives. Really, it is helping to be scholars from local colleges like government colleges or rural-based scholars or non-secondary scholars. I think this knowledge system, especially these libraries or archives, whether it is in the form of government or non-government management, it is very expensive. Have you think that really it is helpful to the what I said some category of the students in history or other different things? I think it is very easy to the European scholars or Indian scholars, those who are doing their research in abroad, they can they have a good accessibility with these libraries and archives. Thank you, sir.
That's a very important question. For one, It is expensive. You said it is expensive for people here.
Yes.
But I will say that it is expensive everywhere. Every country has its own system. India has its own system. Tamil Nadu has its own system. In this region, we have a different system. So let's say, for example, in the US, if you get into the university education is very, very expensive. When you pay the entire fee, the fees are collected for all the infrastructure. So therefore, access becomes easier, and there is much more openness about material. That is a major difference. In India, here, number one, we have the technology, but not everyone has the technology. The institutions have some technology, and the users have one type of technology. It does not sync well. We should have similar kinds of platform everywhere in all universities. I'm not sure about that. So what happens is, for you said it is not cheaper. So what is not cheaper is the question. What should be cheap? What should not be cheap? And how expensive can something be? I would say, let's say for example, if you take a book and a book of archival value, a current book, a recently published book may not be so very expensive. If you're looking for an archival material, then there are only a few books. Only a few libraries have. Let's say we have a book in the Roja Muthiah Library. We want to provide everything free of cost, but ours is a private library. We do not have enough funding. So when there is enough funding, it is possible to do all that. So who should actually do this kind of work? It should be the Tamil Nadu State Archives or National Archives which should be doing this work. But we have been doing this for a long time. And our activities are based on funding from other people, other sources. At any rate, what we have done is we have kept for people who visit the library, they can come and take notes, which is completely free. There is no charge. There is not even a membership fee. So it is absolutely free. And there are many libraries which are free. And only thing is retrieval systems are better in the Roja Muthiah Library. And there's accessibility, absolute accessibility. But somebody who wants to have a copy of a book, then we have to use our resources where we have to employ somebody to scan, we have to employ somebody to print, we have to buy the equipment for all that, buy a scanner, buy a printer. So all this costs some money. So we have to charge. And that's the reason we charge also. Let's say, for instance, there is a corporate social responsibility. One company comes forward to take care of the reference services. Let's say, okay, let me provide you some 25 lakhs every year. Provide free services, free material to people. We'll be very happy to do that. But I agree with you. It is expensive because there's a bandwidth cost. That is why what we are doing right now is whatever we have already scanned, we want to provide everything free online through the Internet Archive platform. All right. And also, I must say that the government of Tamil Nadu, when Mr. Uday Chandan was in charge of school education, he took up this very important task of digitizing all material in Tamil Nadu. So the Tamil Virtual Academy was brought in to do that kind of work. So they are continuing to do that work, and material is available free. So as long as you have internet, as long as you have a computer, it is possible to download this material.
Yeah. Are there any questions?
Sir, good evening, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, good evening. I am Prasanna, research scholar from Department of History, Bharadas University. I like to ask a question, sir. Well, regarding the preservation of documents, the repository. Usually, when old documents are being accessed, the letters or the pages will, in due course of year, it will fade away, or it will become brittle when we use it to touch. The pages usually will become broken when usually comes to the old documents, very old documents. So how do you preserve, what kind of methodology or what kind of methods followed in Roja Muthiah Library in preserving these kind of old documents, especially hard copies? Well, digitizing is okay, but when we want to use the original hard copy, what kind of methods is being used in your library? That's my question. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, since you already know about the digital technology, not going to touch that. And
Okay.
you're asking about the physical preservation of material. There are two important points. Number one, you do
Uh-huh.
not damage a particular item further. So it's already brittle. You should not
Yeah.
damage it further. So you take some precautions for that. For instance,
Okay.
how do you turn a page? How
Mm-hmm.
slowly you turn a page?
Okay.
Or should you turn a page? And these are important questions to ask, right? And then you
Okay.
allow. And who turns the page? Because not all the users will be trained to turn the page carefully. So you need to provide awareness for users to turn the pages carefully. Secondly, preservation is a very costly affair. If you want to conserve a particular item, number one, you should understand the chemistry behind paper. You should understand the chemistry behind why it is getting brittle. Or I
Okay.
mentioned about long fiber, short fiber, mass production and slow production, small scale production. Using acid-free material like adhesives, you can't use copper sulfate in the adhesive. So what happens? Copper sulfate is very acidic. The moment there is acid in that, it will react with paper, so it will become brittle soon. So you should avoid all that. Then what do you use? Use the right kind of material, and for that there are training programs. So you can attend those training programs. There are also a lot of material online, what material to use, how to preserve, and all that. So basically, you should, when you handle paper, paper should, if it is brittle, it should be we should de-acidify the paper to provide strength. For de-acidification, there's a chemical process. And then for providing strength, you have to sandwich the paper between uh, cellulose paper, which is paper, plastic, not anything else. It is paper. And for instance, in our case, we buy paper from Japan. So it's called as
Okay, sir.
Japanese tissue.
Okay, sir.
So that is what we do. Okay?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Hello, is someone asking questions? Hello. Hello. Looks like someone is asking question, but it's not visible, audible. Just type. You just type. Hidayatullah, somebody is trying to ask a question.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I think so. This is certainly a new variety of archives. It will have the both sides. One has to understand. However, I think the government has to come forward, as well as the people who believes that knowledge should be available, resources should be available to each and everybody, especially those who do not have history, whose history is not so far written.
Correct.
So, if those people are aspiring to write their history, and if the RMRL is one of the places where they wanted to come and get the now, because a government archives is already proved to be a place where you cannot go and access the material that is required. So it's like as an obligation, government has to be there, and it has to have some record, some office. It is just existing as it is an institution. But then the management and the way it manages and maintains its archives is gone out of sort of some amount of disinterest has gone into government. So, and apart from that, the post-independent India's government documents are distributed into different places. So, archives is not a place anymore for the government or government requires to be kept there. So, therefore, government do not have, you have the secretariat library, this, that. So, therefore, they would not be having any interest to focus on. So, history of the elite is history of the upper society, upper strata of the society is already written. So who cares if the other's history is not written? So therefore, let whoever that's why I think not only the RMRL kind of things. There are many, all those communities having their own archives. Christian missionaries have their archives. Everybody started collecting archives. Probably Ambedkarite movement is also collecting archives. So that's happening. But however, I think once the more powerful you are as an institution, the more resources you get. That is the logic. So if that is the case, one has to do whatever they can to offer the material to those people who are aspiring to write their history. So I think certainly, as Sundar pointed out, so he is pointing out that certain possibilities like the CSR, the corporate social responsibility coming in, for government, if it is interested, is coming in. But one thing we should not forget is that the kind of effort they made, the RMRL, and the kind of resources they've collected, so they would have gone into oblivion. But however, now we have them, the amount of technology they've been using, certainly for the posterity, history is already preserved. So we should be very thankful. But however, it is very helpful for us to point out and understand what it is all about, and what is there, and how we can approach the archives that are not used, and so forth. So, however, the kind of as you pointed out, certainly the RMRL is becoming a cultural hotspot, and then I know that the more academic discussions are taking place in RMRL than in other university. So very visible, very visible. So yeah, so we are very happy, and I am very thankful to you for joining with us.
Oh, thank you very much.
To explain our students.
I must say that we have provided. We also had an MOU with Bharadasan University. You had a Periyar chair.
Okay.
And S.V. Rajadhuri was there. And we have digitized all the material related to Periyar, and we have given a copy to the university.
So we do not know this. We will be using them if it is available with our Periyar studies.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, all of you.
Yes.